We are analyzing Bitcoin today. I'm going to tell you the 6 reasons why it's a good idea, the 6 reasons why it isn't, and then my view and my take on it. So coming from somebody who invests normally in equities and in real estate and looks at fundamentals and valuation, Bitcoin is a challenge. Before we get to that, guys, as always, this is not investment advice. This is for entertainment only. And your likes really are everything to me. So do hit that like button. It helps us spread and grow our beautiful community here. Bitcoin was started in 2009, basically out of the financial crash, to create a currency that wasn't linked to banks and governments and was sort of independent from that whole banking sphere that collapsed at the time. It is created using computers. It is mined, essentially. It's an algorithm that gets harder and harder and harder over time. We now have 18.5 million Bitcoin in circulation, if you will. 21 million is the maximum. And apparently that's going to be so hard to mine those last Bitcoins that will take to something like 2,150 or something. Long time away. It is the best performing asset ever, really, up 9 million%. So just like staggering growth, hence the great media interest. There are issues. There's been theft, there's been fraud, there's been manipulation, there's possibly government regulations, balance and other stuff. So we're going to look at all of that. We're going to look at firstly 6 positives in my view, and then 6 negatives, and then my take on it. And we're going to round that up as quickly as we possibly can, guys. Do hit that like button if you enjoy these videos. Number 1, it's becoming popularized. It's becoming a more of an everyday asset rather than that sort of weird slight, oh my God, we hate the normal currencies. We are afraid of government sort of early adopters. And I'm not trying to disrespect them. It's just that is sort of the original sentiment of it. PayPal is allowing the use of Bitcoin through PayPal, and they are within apparently beginning 2021, i.e. now, they will allow us to use Bitcoin to pay for purchases with 26 million merchants who use PayPal. So it is becoming more everyday accepted. Second, we had a former Goldman hedge fund chief, really. He set a price target for what? Of $1 million within 5 years. So really that, whoa, up to the moon price target for Bitcoin there from somebody who is a financial expert by all accounts. Otherwise he wouldn't have been at Goldman. Number 3, actually China is making a digital Bitcoin type currency, and that is actually a positive because it just goes to show how wide this adoption of cryptocurrencies will be. Governments are creating it. China's creating their own, and I suspect most governments around the world will create their own. I think there will be a US dollar cryptocurrency. That will then be controlled by government, though. That will be the difference, of course. This one isn't. 4, in the last year or so, you've seen most brokerages, most online brokering software applications have now started to trade in Bitcoin. So it is much easier for people to buy it. Much of people are exposed to it. You don't need to set up complicated wallets and strange softwares people don't understand. You don't need to Google how to do it. You can just do it with your usual broker. So that's number 4. Number 5, ETFs are coming for Bitcoin. Also, within the number 5, I'm going to wrap up. Amex is investing in the Bitcoin sphere. So you are getting major financial names, big respectable institutions investing into the Bitcoin area. And number 6, Coinbase. Coinbase is the biggest Bitcoin exchange in the world. They're going to IPO, and that valuation is somewhere between 30 to 60 billion US dollars, according to our friends at Goldman again. So massive valuation there. Now, there are some downsides to Bitcoin in my view. The regulation isn't there yet, but it will be there. So if you're saying, well, I can hold my money in something that nobody will ever know who owns it, I think that's a short-term thing. We are seeing draft or suggested regulations coming in the US. They will want to know, governments, who did the transactions, who are the owners of these wallets, and they will force the exchanges and the brokers to tell the government who owns this. And then and this is really number 2, your wallet tracks all of your transactions publicly in perpetuity. So that financial record is public and it's there forever. So the governments will figure out a way to get access to that. So they will know forever how much money you bought, you sold, what you did with it, where you were, all that kind of thing. So at the end of the day, I do believe this tracking is going to come. Governments are not going to allow substantial amounts of money to just sort of go up in the air and they won't know where it is. Number 3, we've had manipulation accusations in 2017, that massive spike we've seen that was allegedly caused by Tether. Now, Tether is another currency that, cryptocurrency that essentially is one-to-one pegged to the US dollars, and they're saying that for every US dollar they get, they create one Tether, but they have refused to be audited, and nobody really quite knows whether it is in fact US dollar asset backed or not. And let me just show you here, this is the Tether chart. So you saw when we had it, that sort of, they refused to do the audit, it crashed all the way down, and then now the market cap has gone all the way back up. So it's a very strange story. Next, my fourth negative on this is there is no transparency of how to value this. When I buy a share in a company, I have some earnings or some growth or a product or something. If I deal in currencies, well, I have an underlying economy, I have a central bank, there are no assets, fair enough, for the US dollar, it's not backed by gold or anything, that's long gone. But I do have an economy that's using that currency day to day, and there is a relatively transparent currency market, which gives me some idea of why it's going up and down. With Bitcoin, there simply isn't, and you just can't really say why it's going up or down. Yes, you can look at sentiment, and we will do that. We'll do some chart analysis separately in separate video coverages here, but there isn't a fundamental valuation to it because nothing really underpins it apart from sentiment and scarcity. 5, volatility. Look at the chart of Bitcoin, and I'm going to pull this one up on you again here. This is last week. This is just the first 7 days of this year. Where we, well, at one point we were at 29,000 on the 5th, or actually, for example, look at the 6th here. Yesterday, we started the day at 32,000 something, and then halfway through the day, we were at 36,000. So volatility is massive. I mean, really, 10% ups and downs are completely normal. If you look at a little bit of a longer period of time, you have huge amounts of volatility. So that is something to bear in mind if you're investing in this. I mean, literally 10% up and down within an hour is completely normal with Bitcoin. 6, and we are almost there, 5 to 10% movements in minutes, as I said, are common. A single buy or sell order can move the market that much if the buyer or seller is significant. And within that, I'm going to wrap up number 6 with, we've had collapses. If you look at the charts, you can't really tell anymore because it's going up so much. But we had collapses in 2011, 2012, 2013, 2015, 2018, and each one of those was between 70 to 90%. So it has always shot back up way above that, as the chart shows you. But that is volatility of a serious scale. So it is something you need to be able to sleep with, really. Now, what's my view on this? It is a hedge against governments printing money. I get that. There is a limit to how many Bitcoins there can be. There can only be 21 million. That's it. So there's a scarcity to that, whereas there are billions of more US dollars and yen and euros and every other currency in the world every day, because central banks have been printing money like mad basically since 2008, and they haven't stopped. And there hasn't been inflation, which is against most economic theory, but that's another subject altogether. But there is asset inflation. They just don't measure it in their inflation measures. So that is a positive in my view. Now, however, US dollar, here's some. I like to have money on my desk. I like to look at money. This US dollar will not drop 90%. It will not have that kind of volatility. I can use it for transactions pretty much anywhere in the world. People will accept it for goods quite easily. Now that's improving with Bitcoin, with what PayPal is doing, but still, of course, the good old US dollar is much more accepted. And there is a much smaller volatility to this, although I do get the inflation argument. So why do people really buy Bitcoin? In my view, they buy it because they want to 10x, 20x, 100x their money. That's really why they buy it. They don't buy it for any fundamental valuation reasons of Bitcoin. They read about it, they're excited about it, and they're hoping that their $10,000 are going to turn into $1 million. That for me is a downside, because those guys are not really long-term investors. They are gamblers. Now, you could say all investment is gambling, fair enough, but I think typically there are more underlying valuations to it, which we haven't got here. I already mentioned it's difficult to use day to day, but that is improving, so that's a positive there. I think all governments will create their own cryptocurrencies and they will regulate this space. Your Bitcoin holdings, your wallets, you will be forced to disclose what you own, and then there'll be a public record, and your tax authorities will know precisely what you're doing publicly. They don't need to ask your bank. They can just look up your wallet number. It'll be linked to your tax ID. I promise you that that is coming. So it isn't this escape from the world, but it is an escape from the central bank. The Fed have said they have no authority to regulate this. So it doesn't fall in under any government's regulation from a money printing point of view. So there is that benefit, and I really do see that. But the ownership will become public, at least to your tax authorities. So it is a speculative investment in my view. You can lose a lot of money with it. You can make a lot of money with it. The key for me is always, will it make me lose sleep? So the percentage that you put into this, if you do want to put into this, and as I always say, this is not financial advice, guys. I do this for entertainment only. I must say that. You know, it is just a roller coaster ride, this. So if you want to put a small amount into it, get a bit of exposure to it, if it goes up a lot, you're happy. If it crashes down 80%, perhaps temporarily, perhaps for longer, it's not going to cause you a big headache, you're not going to be worried about it, then fine, do that. I'm not going to ever tell anybody don't invest in something that they're interested in. It's a very, very interesting, it's a very exciting asset class, but you have to understand the risks. Don't just blindly follow the crowd. Don't be a sheep. Understand why this is moving, or understand that you won't understand why this is moving other than public sentiment, essentially, and a desire to offset inflation to some extent. It does react a little bit inversely with US dollars, although not strongly. And you could say it is sort of a crypto gold asset, which also tends to move against, you know, economies is bad, people are worried about it, people tend to buy gold and vice versa. So you can't value this. We have forecasts ranging from predictions, price targets from 50,000 to 5 million. I mean, that just goes to show the range that how people view this. There is a great deal of speculation to it. And if you just look at, pull this up for you guys again here, just look at, my big head is covering it, but you can see it right here. No, you can't see it. Apologies, guys. My head is covering it. The low today is 33,800. The high is 37,000. That is massive volatility. So you have to be comfortable with that level of volatility. If you are, make sure you know what kind of risk you're taking. Make sure you understand it. Now, where's it going to go? Look at what's happening in the US overnight. Those riots, there's a curfew in Washington there's emergency legislation, a state of emergency in place for 2 weeks until inauguration, until the president changes. Baffling state of affairs for a free democratic country. That, in my view, is good for Bitcoin. These kind of events drive Bitcoin. People get scared of what's going on, and where do they go? They go to gold and they go to Bitcoin, increasingly more to Bitcoin. So the riots, in my view, are a catalyst, but be prepared for extreme volatility. Know what you're getting into. You have no way of knowing where this thing is in 5 months. It could be up 1,000% or it could be down 80%. You just don't know. You might be of the view it's going to go up and up and up. It's just going to have these sharp corrections in between and then keep going up. That's a fair view if that's yours. But bear in mind, if this is money you need access to in the short term, be cautious. So that's my wrap up on this. We're going to keep looking at Bitcoin because it is a really interesting asset class in addition to equities. So if you've got any questions, guys, post them below. Share, like, subscribe, turn on your alerts to make sure you get to join our lives every day. So that's a wrap here from Hong Kong. Thanks for tuning in.